Hi, my name is Chelsea, and this is my first YouTube video. I have plans for like a lot of different things that I would like to make videos about, but this first one, I thought I should just introduce myself and give you a little preview into all of the diverse array of things that I've been through in my life that I'll go into a little bit more detail in individual videos. Like this is a video that kind of puts it all together about like the timeline of things that have happened with me. So I'll just start at the beginning. I was raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. That's a religion that I would now consider to be a cult. Um, I consider that for many reasons, but mostly because they practice shunning for anyone who believes differently than they do. Um, so yeah, it was also a really intense way to grow up. I think the religion has a pretty big emphasis on um, praying for Armageddon to come, hoping that the end of the world comes so that they can be the only ones left on the planet. They assume that everyone else will perish during Armageddon, and that includes anyone who just sins for any reason, anyone who is against Jehovah. So, as a kid, that was really intense to grow up around. I had serious anxiety about the end of the world coming, and I didn't sleep a lot. I was incredibly fearful at all times. I cried every day. That sounds like an exaggeration, but I was, was a rarity for there to be any day in which I didn't cry. To kind of compound the intensity of that experience growing up, my mom was an alcoholic, also struggled with bipolar disorder, and it led to a lot of really, really traumatic situations in which, I almost died. Many, really difficult things to have to go through with a parent at an incredibly young age. And so, yeah, my childhood was really rough overall. I ate compulsively. I was extremely overweight. And so this was during a time when children really weren't very overweight, or at least the kids that were I was growing up around. So I was bullied mercilessly. I had truly no one really throughout my childhood. I was having a very tough experience in my home life and in my school life that was also just unbearable to be around. So I was really just an incredibly unhappy kid, and started therapy when I was 8 years old, and didn't really feel like I could open up to a therapist though, because I was taught through the religion that you really can't trust anyone outside of the religion, and within the religion college is really kind of looked down upon. And so there wouldn't really be any Jehovah's Witness therapists that I could have gone to at the time. So it didn't really help matters very much. And just my depression and anxiety and PTSD just continued to get worse and worse. When I was around 11 or 12 years old, that was when I first started antidepressants. And I remember the doctor saying, like, this isn't something that we should do. Like, this is a last resort option. We don't actually know what happens to someone of your age, like their brain, when we put them on an antidepressant at this age. And they said, but it seems more dangerous to not put you on it than, to put you on it. So I think the first antidepressant I tried was Zoloft. And then for the next, forever, like right up until I was 28, I continued to be on some form of antidepressant, or more likely a cocktail of uh, antidepressants, mood stabilizers, anti-anxiety, ADHD, antipsychotics, sleep meds. I mean, there was like everything. But yeah, so that started at a very young age. When I was 17, I left the religion with my dad. This is like a very intense story. It's very bizarre, and that will have to be reserved for another video. Um, but we moved across the country, and a lot of things happened. I started to lose a massive amount of weight, and also just went really hardcore into like atheism and just full on like nihilism. Like there is no point to being good. There is no karma. There is nothing. Like there is no one judging your actions. And during that time, like I was having at the time what it felt like a really wild and fun life because there were just no rules. I was doing whatever I wanted. I was breaking the law. I was going to college, which that was never really in the plan for me growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. So I kind of felt like the sky was the limit, but I was just doing like everything that I never could have done before. I was making up for lost time, like in a very rebellious way. And that definitely did not help my mental health at all. Things just, in some ways, they did get better, and in other ways, they deteriorated. I did start to feel a little bit more free, but the deep trauma that I had been through and a lot of the programming was definitely still there. And I didn't realize that at that point, but that was something that continued to wear on me, definitely with the pressure during college. I definitely had a point during college where I was so stressed out and just was so hopelessly suicidal that I was hospitalized briefly. One of the scariest things I've ever been through, but also one that I learned the most from, because being in a state psychiatric hospital is the fastest way to realize that you are not actually crazy, because you are surrounded by people who are truly out of their mind. They're a different level. They're in a different place. And it wasn't just sadness, it was mostly a lot of delusion over there, like seeing things, hearing things, like a lot of wild experiences in there. So when I left there, I went on a massive, just super strict cocktail of it was an antidepressant, a mood stabilizer, an antipsychotic, and then ADHD medication, because all of the medication made me so tired that I couldn't do anything. I had like no energy and no motivation. So that was to get me going in the morning, and then at night, or like evening. And also if I ever had a panic attack, which I still was having them pretty often, at least a couple times a week, then I had anti-anxiety medication. And then to go to sleep at night, I took a sleeping pill. So that was all the combination of those. I call that, it was like a psychiatric Spanx, which just like held me in every area. Like I was so tight, like all of my emotions, just everything was so held so tightly in that I couldn't move. And I did that for a long time. I stayed on that for a long time, and it just repressed like everything. I felt nothing. I had no motivation to do anything, to travel, to have relationships, to really do anything with my life. And that wasn't great. The one thing that I really wanted, that I thought this is going to be the thing that makes me happy, is I really wanted to move back to California, and specifically Los Angeles. And so when I got the opportunity to do that, I was so excited. And then I ended up getting this job on a very well-known TV show that I could actually walk to from my apartment. I didn't even know that I lived within walking distance until the interview. And I was like, oh my God, this is the dream. And when I got that job, and I told people like, yeah, not only do I work on this amazing show, I also can walk to work every day. I don't have to do like the LA traffic, like literally everyone has to do. And people would say, "You're living the dream." And I would think, I am, but why do I still want to kill myself? Like I was still really struggling with wanting to die. And I knew that something was wrong to have all of these things, to have so many more friends than I had had ever in my life. You know, I spent most of my life just incredibly isolated, incredibly alone. And I got involved like in the comedy scene of LA, and I had all of these friends, and I had the job, and I had the apartment, and I had the life that I had always wanted, and I still wanted to die. And that was weighing really heavily on me. And then one night when I was at a party, I met this girl who I didn't really know very well, and she started to tell me about her experience doing ayahuasca. She had just gone recently. And as she was telling me, I remember she stopped and said, "I don't know why I'm telling you this." And in that moment, I felt a jolt of electricity in my body. And I said, "I know why you're telling me this. It's because this is gonna save my life." I had heard about ayahuasca and how people with PTSD and depression and, you know, all of that had basically cured themselves with it and were able to live without medication, where it like completely rewired their brains. And yet I was not aware of any of that being available in the United States. It felt like something that was really far away, like I would have to travel to a different country. And living on all of the medications that I was on, I had no motivation to even like cook myself dinner ever, like to ever like I could barely take care of myself. I was just barely scraping by. So the idea of like planning this elaborate trip, it was just like, that's out of the question. I could never do that. So when she told me about how she had done it somewhere fairly local, I immediately was like, this is doable. Like I can actually do this. So I spent the next couple of months going off all of my psychiatric medication, slowly weaning off like bit by bit, everything. And then I spent from there 6 weeks on nothing. And that was right up until I did ayahuasca for the first time. That's another thing I want to talk about in another video, is just going off of like psychiatric medication. It's one of the most difficult things in anyone's life. I mean, it's pure hell on earth. It's one of the darkest things ever. And it was so dark for me. It felt like everything that I had ever pushed down while I was on that medication had suddenly appeared. And it was like, I imagine it really as like my mental landscape was just, which I had like blinders on, like the medication had completely blinded me to everything that was going on in my mental landscape, or just kind of like mellowed me out to the point where like I didn't care. And when I could fully see it, I was like, this is a trash dump. Like I am just surrounded by trash and I can't get out. Like I am just every night going to sleep, it was like I am suffocating in my own trash. Every moment, every waking moment was hell. And I told myself that I wasn't going to go back on the medication because I could tell it had just repressed everything. But I thought, if ayahuasca doesn't work, I'm going to have to kill myself because I can't ever come back here. Like I'll know I have tried everything and I can't go back here, you know? So there was like a lot of pressure going into that first ceremony, and wouldn't you know it, first time I went, it did not work. I did not have a breakthrough experience, which is what I've heard some people call it, which is where you have an experience. Like it's basically like you just feel a little sedated, and I did feel like I was in my head a little bit, but I didn't have anything really, like I wasn't taken on a ride. You would know if you had a breakthrough experience, basically. If you're sitting there going, am I having an experience? That means that you haven't. So, and that's another thing I definitely want to talk about, is all of the experience on ayahuasca that I've had. I left there that first time feeling distraught and thinking, I'm not giving up because the only alternative is suicide. So I need to try it at least one more time. So I went a month later, I tried it again, and I had the most transformational experience in my entire life. Like, that moment changed literally everything. It completely rewired my brain in a way that, even if it would have only done half of what it did, I would have considered that a success. I couldn't even fathom that it would do what it had done for me. Like, I don't have words for how incredible the change was afterwards. It did, in the moment, I did not fully trust that it had done the trick and that it was actually changing me. In the moment, I thought, I realized that something is happening, but I didn't realize the extent of it until like the next day. And I thought that mental landscape that had been full of trash was like wiped clean. It was just like a fresh, daisy filled valley, like just crisp and clear. And like, it didn't come back. And weeks later, it didn't come back. And I felt like my thoughts and my actions and who I was, like, I felt more like myself without all of that there. It was amazing, because I think a lot of myself, I identified with a lot of the trash that had been in my mental landscape. And I saw that as, no, that's all me. All of that trash is who I am. But that wasn't true. And so once all of that was cleared out, I was kind of like, had an almost identity crisis of like, wait, who am I without all of this trauma, without all of this pain, without all of this fear and baggage that I've been holding on to for so long? I didn't know, so it was kind of this incredible time of like finding myself for the very first time at like 29 years old. And yeah, so I continue to go many more times. I some of the wildest, like the most extreme, most upsetting, like uncomfortable, excruciating experiences I've ever had came in the ceremonies after that. And I definitely want to talk all about that, but I'll just say that it's something that I've continued to do, as I feel like it has helped me more than anything else has ever come close to doing. I look at like the almost 16 years that I was in therapy, like straight up 16 years, many different types of therapists, many different types of therapy, many different strategies and coping tools and all of that. And that never came close to touching anything that ayahuasca did. And I definitely have theories on why that is, but I'll have to get into that another time. It's just, it's like it found exactly what was inside of me that I didn't even know was wrong. I look at it as like, I came into this world wearing the wrong glasses, like glasses with the wrong prescription. And so even from the youngest age, I never had a clear idea of what anything was. Because I could never really see it for what it was. And ayahuasca kind of installed the appropriate lenses so that I was seeing the world, not only the world outside of me, but my internal world and everything that I'd ever been through and everyone that I'd ever loved or been attached to, for what they really were for the first time. And it changed everything. In a moment, in many moments, like over the course of the years that I kept going back, I began to keep seeing my life in different ways, seeing it more accurately though, and really coming into this understanding of who I really was and meeting myself in many ways for the first time. And it's just been the most transformational work that I've ever done. And it's opened up so much for me internally. It's, when I look back at who I was right after I left the witnesses, I really took that hard left turn into atheism and science and nihilism and nothing matters. And I was really comfortable there. I really liked that no one could ever come back at me and be like, oh, you're crazy, you're delusional, you know, any of that. And it was really uncomfortable for me after I started to get into ayahuasca, and I started to realize like there is this spiritual world that exists out there. I am a spiritual being. I am a soul that has lived other lifetimes. And to not just think it because I read it in a book, but to see it and experience it and remember other lifetimes and remember what my soul is here to do, and to know it in every fiber of my being, you know, to really come back to who I am on a soul level. It's one of the wildest things that can happen to anyone, is to really remember who they are and what they're doing in this lifetime, I think. And it's rare. I think most of us, you know, we go through this life and we don't ever really dig deep into like, what am I doing? Like a lot of people ask, you know, what is the purpose of all of this? But they really don't dig deep enough because it's uncomfortable. They don't dig deep enough to actually reach that answer, or to remember who they are, or remember why they're here. And so yeah, I mean, for me, it's been transformational. It's opened up my intuition, my understanding of the world, the way that I see things. I say that it's opened up my awareness, because I very early on with ayahuasca, one of the things that it showed me is it said, this is such a bizarre picture or like concept, but it was like, you were born inside of a Tupperware container in a refrigerator. And you spent the first part of your life thinking that the whole world existed within that Tupperware container. And then you left the religion, and you were let out of that Tupperware container, and you were now in the refrigerator, and you went, oh my God, I can't believe the whole world is this. And even then, you were still just in the refrigerator. And then as you moved on through life, there were other things that had come up that would expand my worldview, until it was like the refrigerator door opened, and then suddenly I was in the kitchen, and I realized, oh my God, there's a whole world outside of this fridge. There's a house, there's a whole house. And then with ayahuasca came this realization that the whole world is not just this house. It's beyond the whole house. It's beyond all of that. Now I am able to access like the full, like the neighborhood, the whole state, country, the whole universe. I'm able to go out into space, and that's how much more there is compared to what I believed when I, you know, was young, what I believed the universe was. So it's really been an expansive experience. It's been like a deep excavation, you know, of who I am, where I've come from. And it's been a lot of healing, a ton of healing work. Doing ayahuasca opened me up to understanding the energy centers, which is something that I had never given a second thought to. It's something that I don't think I ever really would have believed in prior to that. But when I started to go into these states, I started to see the energy coming off of me. I started to really feel it for the first time, to go, it's undeniable. Like, we know, we have proof that we do have this electromagnetic frequency that's coming off of the body. It comes off of the heart. You can measure this stuff. It's not esoteric. It's not, you know, all BS. We have this energy that's coming off of us, and there are ways to interact with it and to manipulate it in a good way, not the bad kind of manipulation. But, you know, these are all things that I've been opened up to, and I've taken further. I don't go to ayahuasca ceremonies super regularly anymore, because I have really found a lot of help in breath work and in meditation and in healing work, energy healing. And those are all things that I truly, like the old me, just like 5 years ago would have just thought was so stupid, and I was so cynical and jaded, and I would just be like, it's all trash. Like I need the big guns. Like nothing works on me, so I need like aggressive stuff. And it's like, well, no, this was actually what I needed, and I did never knew it until I really went in and started doing deep work on myself, and completely changed my life, completely changed my health, my body, my everything. Everything has changed. And so yeah, I'm so grateful for everything that I've learned about energy and health and breath work and the soul and energy, like and intuition, psychic abilities, and the astral plane. And like, just I feel like I'm so much more connected to myself and my spirit. And I'm really grateful for everything that I've learned. And it's something that I have felt the call to start sharing more about, because I see the world, this pandemic, this post-pandemic. I mean, not that we're even mid-pandemic, like this mid-pandemic world. And this is like a collective ayahuasca ceremony that we have been pushed into, and it is bringing up everyone's deep, dark crap from the bottom of their soul. And I see it so strongly. And I recognize the pain that I'm seeing in others as the same pain that was coming out in me when I was healing a lot of these things. And lately I've helped a couple people who have been going through spiritual crises. And that's another thing that's just, a lot of this energy that's coming up right now is so intense that people don't know how to deal with it. And I've been there. And it's so hard. And it feels like there's nothing you can do. It feels like this is going to be the way it is forever. And it's not. And so, yeah, there's so much that I want to share. There's so much knowledge and so many tools that I want to share to help other people. And yeah, I'm really excited to share them in this space. And I'm really hopeful that, I find some people, some like minds, who are also really open to all of these things, and that we can just share ideas and vibe together. So if you liked this video, and if anything I said resonated with you, please subscribe, write me a comment, write me anything to just let me know that this is something that you're interested in. I would love that. It would mean a lot to me. And yeah, I'll be back shortly with more videos, more content. So yeah, see ya.